And now, more than 35 years on, number 10 is back at the centre of another storm. That's because Hodge put the shirt up for auction, and as it entered its final hours today, a delegation of Argentinians turned up to win back what they say is rightfully theirs.
It was impossible not to be here today because this relic must go to Argentina.
Marcelo Ordaz is a football collector, and he's working with the Argentine Football Association to get the shirt home. How much are you willing to pay?
Millions, 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 millions.
5 million?
Maybe more.
But incredibly, that wasn't enough. A couple of hours ago, the shirt sold online for £7.1 million. Well, the Argentinians were hoping to walk out of there holding that shirt, but today just wasn't their day. The winner has chosen to keep their identity a secret, and all we do know is that that shirt could soon be on its way to anywhere in the world. It started life in the markets of Mexico City, where it was found by the team's kit man, who had to source a new strip and fast because the current one was making the players too hot.
It could have been worn by anybody. It's just a team wear item that was never intended to be worn by Diego Maradona. It was intended for a school team or an amateur Sunday league team. But because that kit man went on the hunt and found it, that ended up being this most priceless, iconic shirt.
Maradona brilliantly just gets away from Reed.
Peter Reed was on the pitch during that quarter-final, but joked today that this is the closest he's ever managed to get to number 10.
You're talking about one of the most iconic players that ever played the game. Who knows if VAR would have been in operation? It'd have been a different story.
And then who knows? Maybe this football shirt wouldn't be worth £7 million. Chloe Keedy, News at 10.
Goodness, that is News at 10 for tonight. From all of us here, goodbye. We will see you tomorrow. Good night.
Are you honest, Prime Minister?
The best way to judge that is to look at what this government says it's going to do and what it does.
So here's a straight question. Have you been questioned by the police?
No, I think they put out a statement last week saying they're not reinvestigating, they haven't spoken to me.
Just a warning, you don't get an easy ride on this programme.
Weekdays from 6. There'll be some light cloud early on today, but by lunchtime it will almost certainly clear. Heinz Seriously Good Mayonnaise sponsors ITV National Weather.
A very good evening to you. A mixture of cloud and some decent sunshine as the week wears on, all the while much milder than it has been of late, but many of us a little warmer than this point last week. And in the last few hours, temperatures have been sliding away under the clearer skies. Out in the countryside, a little chillier than last night, close to just 2 or 3 degrees and a touch of ground frost in the most prone zones. But those temperatures well above freezing in towns and cities. A few patches of mist and shallow fog for the north and the west tomorrow morning. Quite grey and murky through parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. A little rain working its way into northern and western Scotland. Otherwise, better, brighter conditions. Some lovely sunshine, just a few clouds wafting around and a few homegrown showers cropping up across the west and the southwest through the afternoon. These few and far between. In the sunshine, a pleasant feeling 21 or 22 degrees, but even where it stays a little dull and damp, feeling very mild and muggy. See you soon.
Heinz Seriously Good Mayonnaise sponsors ITV National Weather.
What will determine your vote in tomorrow's elections? Boris Johnson's Partygate, Keir Starmer's Beergate, soaring energy and food prices, rising taxes, that new border in the Irish Sea. Don't sit on the fence, watch the political parties slug it out on my show and then you decide. After the news, wherever you are.
Good evening and welcome to Granada Reports. Judges at the Court of Appeal have today been asked to consider whether a man from Blackburn should be given a whole life sentence. Jordan Monaghan killed 2 of his children and a girlfriend over the span of 7 years. After his trial in December last year, the judge told him he'd serve a minimum of 40 years before being considered for parole. The 30-year-old is among 5 notorious killers whose sentences are under review. Our correspondent Elaine Wilcox has the latest.
Jordan Monaghan had revelled in the attention after the sudden deaths of his own children. He'd smothered his baby daughter Ruby at just 24 days old. 8 months later, he killed his son Logan when his partner discovered his gambling debts and had threatened to leave him. He was arrested after he attempted to murder a third child. But while on bail, he started a new relationship with a vulnerable mom, Evie Adams, and he poisoned her, angry at being rejected. Senior judges at the Court of Appeal were told there was no mitigation at all, and his 40-year minimum term was unduly lenient.
So over a 7-year period, this offender either killed, in terms of murdered, or attempted to murder 4 individuals. The clear rationale or intent behind these offences was to try to distract his then partner from his gambling habit and maintain control over her, despite her repeated attempts to free herself of him.
After his sentence last December, the children's mother sobbed as police read her statement.
All I ever wanted to be was a mum. I wanted to give children the love and opportunities I didn't have growing up. Jordan knew how much I wanted this too. My children are the most important things in my life. I loved every single day I had with them and often think about this. Jordan took the lives of Logan and Ruby. Initially, and for a very long time, I did not want to believe this, but now I know it's the truth.
Alongside them, Evie Adams' parents, who are now waiting by the phone for news from the courts. The judges will decide if 5 notorious killers, including Jordan Monaghan, should spend the rest of their lives behind bars. Elaine Wilcox, ITV News.
It's been announced the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge will be at the official opening of the memorial for the 22 people killed in the Manchester Arena bombing. The Glade of Lights Memorial bears the name of each person who died. The official opening is next Tuesday, ahead of the 5th anniversary of the attack. The Duke will speak at the ceremony, while the Duchess will lay flowers. Meanwhile, the Queen has sent her best wishes to Arrow Park Hospital on its 40th anniversary. Her Majesty officially opened the Wirral Hospital in 1982. It cost £30 million and brought together services from 3 hospitals in Wallasey, Birkenhead and Leasowe. A new mural of footballer Marcus Rashford has been unveiled in Manchester. The artwork near Shude Hill shows the Manchester United player with his eyes shut to the abuse he gets on social media. It was made by artist Ruben Dangor, who says he wanted to show support for Rashford by including some of the positive messages the United forward receives online. Manchester City have lost to Real Madrid 3-1, missing out on the chance to face Liverpool in an all-Northwest Champions League semi-final. Champions League final. Riyad Mahrez scored for City in the 73rd minute. Real Madrid then caught up to the Sky Blues, scoring 3 goals during extra time. The final will be in Paris in 3 weeks' time. Next, the wildlife charity that claims elephants actually live longer when working in difficult conditions rather than being in zoos like Blackpool and Chester. According to the Born Free Foundation's latest report, an elephant's health and life expectancy deteriorates in captivity. They are calling on the government to make all UK zoos elephant-free. Our reporter Tim Scott went to Chester Zoo to see how they responded.
They are some of the most popular attractions at our zoos, but according to a new report by the Born Free Foundation, elephants shouldn't be there at all.
The report's authors are calling for a complete ban on keeping elephants in zoos. They say it's a tragic and gross exploitation of the animals. But staff here at Chester Zoo say that keeping elephants here actually benefits the species and can lead to advances in science and conservation.
The report is called Elephants in Zoos, a legacy of shame. It says life expectancy for the animals is lower in captivity and that many animals die young. It says the enclosures they're kept in are just too small and lead to depression in the elephants.
We're saying that enough is enough. We've been keeping elephants in zoos for 200 years nearly in the United Kingdom, and the shocking evidence that we've uncovered about their mental health, their physical health, their low breeding rates, their low longevity, means that we've got to bring this to a humane end just as quickly as we can.
But Chester Zoo's Dr. Simon Dowell refutes the report's findings.
Well, I would argue that they've got some of this wrong. They're basing it on a lot of historical data. Over the last 20 years, we've done so much research to improve welfare and improve mortality rate. The report is based on a review of a number of articles and papers and media reports, actually, going back a very long way. And I think that's one of the problems with the report, is that it goes back right into the era when, elephant welfare, I would agree, was not good.
It seems the two sides have very little to agree on, and this debate about the future of elephants in our zoos looks set to run and run. Tim Scott, ITV News, Chester.
And finally, the charity Guide Dogs is in urgent need of fosterers and volunteers who look after dogs in training, and also puppy raisers who are volunteers who look after the pups until they are ready to start training. So, do you have what it takes? Our reporter Paul Crone has been to visit the Guide Dog HQ in Atherton.
I mean, who wouldn't want to take home Bagel the puppy? But what you need to remember here is that she's not a pet. At the Guide Dogs Northwest Training HQ in Atherton, puppies will grow up to become a lifeline for people who are visually impaired. And part of that training requires volunteers to either become fosterers or puppy raisers.
They need a probably flexible, calm, consistent, patient attitude to the dog, just so the dog's nice and settled in the home.
It needs to be someone who's willing to get out and about with a puppy once it's old enough, exposing them to public transport, cafes, shops, other people and different situations and things like that.
Dogs here begin their training at around 14 months old, but the amount of wagging tails tells you it's rather an enjoyable experience. Karen Snape is now training her 26th puppy.
I can see how that dog improves from a tiny puppy that's mouthing you all the time and jumping all over the place to a dog that knows its name and knows where to go to the toilet and will sit and wait and go down and stay and come when it's called and walk on a beautifully loose lead.
Now, it doesn't matter if you're thinking of becoming a fosterer or a puppy raiser. The one thing to remember, and you've always got to remember it, is sooner or later the dog will go back.
So I started to chat to people who had guide dogs as a service. It just changes them so much. It's everything to the person they're going on to. And we have our life, we're lucky we can see.
But we had a dog go back yesterday called Zola, and was quite proud of her. And it's a bit like a child going on to university. It's sad, but very positive, yeah.
We try and prepare them from the start how it's going to be. But it's always hard. It is always hard for the volunteers.
So as long as you know your dog isn't for life, but you're helping to change someone else's life for the better, why not take up the challenge? Paul Crone, ITV News, Atherton.
Yeah, John's got the weather.
Ooh, I love a hot shower, me.
And a minute shorter than usual.
What a legend.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Yes, hello again. Well, it was a grey old morning this morning down at Liverpool. The cruise liner there trying its very best to brighten things up, and half an inch of rain last night over Merseyside. But overnight tonight it's pretty much dry. That cloud will come and go. There'll be a northwesterly breeze. Might be a spit or spot in the wind there, but essentially a dry night and a colder night than last night as well. Temperatures down to around 6 or 7 Celsius. Here's a lovely sunset from Knott End. Your sun's up tomorrow at 5:28. It's setting again at 8:48. So again, a bit of cloud in the morning, a spit or spot in the wind, but essentially it's going to be a dry day tomorrow. Some sunny spells coming through, and temperatures, Greater Manchester, Cheshire Way, down to 19 Celsius. That's not bad at all. That's 66 Fahrenheit, warmer than it's felt for quite some time, and a fine evening to round things off tomorrow evening. Not quite so good on Friday with the frontal system moving through. That's a band of thicker cloud bringing some outbreaks of rain during the course of the day. Top temperatures on Friday up to 15 Celsius, but over the weekend it looks as though it's going to be fine. Good night.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Oh, hello.
Get him a towel.
That is it for Granada Reports today. We will be back in Good Morning Britain from 6 o'clock. Until then, I do hope you enjoy what is left of your evening. Have a great night. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.
Technology and tenants, democracy, deterrent, protesters,
party, crown,
Congress,
volunteers,
ventilators,
rebellions,
refugees,
civilians,
safety, independent,
independent.
You have our word. Independent news is what we stand for.
I'm going to fake my death. What could be simpler?
Where have you decided to live when it's all calmed down?
Next door. Genius.
What could possibly go wrong?
What the?
An unbelievably true story.
How could our mum let us believe our dad had died when he was very much alive?
What have I done?
The Thief, His Wife and the Canoe. Watch the full series now on ITV Hub or ad-free on BritBox. Join us as we celebrate 70 incredible years of Her Majesty the Queen. A one-off live spectacular with show-stopping performances. Celebrate our Queen of many generations. The Queen's Platinum Jubilee Celebration. Sunday the 15th of May at 8 on ITV and ITV Hub.
With all the big names from politics now on ITV, plus tonight to hear from Marina Litvinenko, widow of poisoned Russian exile Alexander Litvinenko, as we join our political editor for Peston.
Hello and welcome. Coming up tonight, what does it mean for the United Kingdom that Sinn Féin may well win tomorrow's elections in Northern Ireland? I'll ask the Northern Ireland Secretary, Brandon Lewis. Are supermarkets doing enough to keep prices down? I'll put that to the boss of the food chain Iceland, Richard Walker. Anushka and Skrini will give us the state of the parties ahead of tomorrow's elections. I'll talk to Ian Blackford, the head of the SNP in Westminster, about whether his cherished Scottish independence vote is still on track. Marina Litvinenko, whose ex-KGB husband was killed by radioactive poisoning, will assess whether the West has yet got the measure of Putin, and doing their very best to explain when beer and cake are or aren't a rule-breaking party. Labour's Tulip Sadiq and the Tory Robert Jenrick. Watcher, I don't know about you, but I always get excited at the idea of casting my vote, which we can do tomorrow in local elections and in Northern Ireland's elections for its governing assembly. And although presumably you have a view on the local issues that matter to you, the national and international backdrop has rarely been so tumultuous and momentous. A cost of living crisis. A Prime Minister and government officials fined for breaking lockdown rules. Northern Ireland riven by whether its Brexit arrangements, the Northern Ireland Protocol, are good or bad for the province. Putin's malign war against Ukraine. I'm not saying you have to vote. A conscious decision to abstain because no candidate represents what you value may be a rational choice for some, even if not for me. But when you look at events in Russia and Ukraine, failing to vote through sheer apathy, a sense that you can't be bothered, feels wrong, even dangerous. Our ancestors made painful sacrifices to win us the right to determine who governs us. Don't dishonour them by shunning that right. Anushka.
Thank you. Let's start by talking about those local